Pack Lapadat. I got the fellas here. So Amelia could not make it due to scheduling, but she's going to be on future episodes. Matt Gary returns, Eric Helms returns, and if you guys remember, Perk was on one of his episodes, and he said, "Bring me in when you have these discussions. I want to be involved in some of these conversations, some of these debates." And Perk, the pound for pound king, is here. We'll talk about SBD Austin just as the event itself. But more importantly, I have some pertinent questions after that event has taken place. And I'm going to throw it to the panel that we have here, panel of experts, and I want to get your guys' opinions. But as we do that, by all means, feel free if you want to give notice and highlight some of the performances you saw at SBD Austin. Um, don't let me skip over anything by any means. All right, so right off the hop, on the women's side, Megan Scanlon taking first. Megan with a bad taste in her mouth after World Championships, losing her title, coming in third, is just kicking everybody's teeth in the 69 kilo class. One Avances, one SBD Austin, and at SBD Austin, and I'll have some follow-up questions to all this, but at SBD Austin was announced as a Sheffield wildcard invite, and yes, she will be going as a 63. So we'll talk about that. However, she posted up 580 as a 69, and I asked her, and she's going to go 63 at Sheffield and then make a run at 69 for Worlds. And a reminder, I get the shit goes out of 69 kilo class and not competing. She's actually suspended for a year. And Corolla Gara will be the biggest opposition. Corolla, 588 is her biggest 69 kilo total. And recently at Italian Nationals did 580 herself. And if Megan has a successful 69 kilo run, she will be the only lifter I can remember, and Matt probably be the guy who off the dome piece might be able to correct me. She broke a world record at 57, won a world title at 63, and should she win a world title at 69, 3 different weight classes, a world record, and 2 world titles, we're talking like best of her era. It's insane. It's absolutely insane what she will have achieved in 3 different weight classes. So even if she doesn't win, for her to broke a world record, win a world title, and even if she medals at 69, it's an absolutely incredible resume. Anyways, further continue on to the results. Jackie Malater, a bit of a coming out party, coming in second. Jackie's been on a lot of people's radars domestically, but I think the more she does these money meets that international people watch, she's going to become more and more on the radar. It's just America, such a meat grinder to get on an American national team. And Natalie Richards, a comebacking Natalie Richards in an emotional comeback here. Natalie fighting so hard from being 2023 world champion, 2023 world's best lifter, and then severe injury sidelining her, and she's just not at her best for so long. Posting up what she did, I believe it was 5'10", and signaling that by the time U.S. Nationals and certainly by the time Worlds comes around, she'll be right in the mix for a red hot 57 kilo class. And since she's been gone, Sarah Naldi has claimed the 57 kilo class. So we'll talk about what that might look like in the future, as well as comebacking Jessica Bittner, Gabby Martinez is in the mix. Christine Hazard. We had some shooters. Now, if we move over to the men's side, I'll just rattle off the results and then we could dive into discussion. But let me get this out the way. Bob Matthews taking SBD Austin, 103.27 of the American record. Bob Matthews, obviously, that's way over the world record as well. The American record being the world record, and that was Bob Matthews. He's just on another level here. We'll talk about the implications of him taking number 1 spot for 120s in 2025, what that might look like moving forward. Joe Jordan coming in second, 732 and a half. Phenomenal showing in the 66 kilo class. And Jesus Oliveras breaking the American record, breaking the world record, the all-time record, tested or untested. And I got a lot of questions about this performance and what that means historically. But we'd be remiss, and we're going to talk a lot about these guys as well, if we didn't talk about Ashton Rouska, signaling that the 105s cannot forget about him, especially if his bench press comes back. And Jaden Lowe breaking Joe B's deadlift American record and posting up a monster total. Jaden Lowe's on everybody's radar, and people better watch out. Of course, Delaney Walls moving up to 93. What does that look like? Just an inch away from 900 kilos. There's a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. There's a lot to unpack here, and I got questions. But right off the hop, right off the rip, I talked about Jesus Oliveras when he did 1152.5 at Sheffield 2023. He went 9 for 9. And the discussion on this podcast was it the greatest performance we'd ever seen? And it was in discussion. This looks a little different. Matt, where does this rank amongst all-time great performances?
I actually think this is better than Sheffield, quite frankly. Even I mean, look, numerically it is by 1 kilo, right? But let's not, we're splitting hairs with 1 kilo difference. But the reality is that at Sheffield, he went 9 for 9, flawless performance. There was some deliberation clearly by the jury on his last deadlift, at Sheffield, and it went in his favor, and he got it, and that was kind of the cherry on top of the sundae. At this particular meet, he only went 7 for 9. He missed his final bench, and he missed his final deadlift, kind of extending himself there at 430 kilos. But the fact that he broke the world record by a kilo on 7 attempts tells you that he is, objectively stronger than he was back then at Sheffield. So this was I think he weighed in at the second heaviest. I know Ryan during during the broadcast, I had messaged you with bad information, but this was the second heaviest that he's ever weighed. So the body weight boded well in his favor. And this was much like Sheffield, a competition that is set up for high level performance because you've got 12 lifters in each flight. It was within the state of Texas. He didn't have to travel. So it was a home game for him. And so all the kind of stars are aligning for this type of performance. And he comes out and he hits a squat that looked much like the squat that he hit at Sheffield, the world record. Very similar, was a tough lift, kind of grindy, a little bit sticky, 2/3 of the way up, but he was able to finish it. And then, that third bench was just a little bit too much. And then, of course, they went for all the marbles there kind of on the second deadlift. And I think that was wise. Just because, you don't know, like we talked about on the previous podcast, the previous show, with his hands kind of swelling up and that being his Achilles heel, if you will, kind of the lockout and the grip sort of thing. They went to secure that world record on the second and then just kind of extended on the third. So, as I've said many times before, I think Jesus is physically strong enough to pull, 425, 430, maybe even 435. Lord knows what he can do with straps. But the accumulation of the day, having to squat over 1,000 pounds essentially twice, that fatigue, that cumulative of fatigue at the end there kind of bit him. But still, man, he proved me wrong because I said that he wasn't going to do it, and he did it. So hats off to him. I'm the first one to raise my hand and say I got it wrong. And so, yeah, all credits due to him. And I think it's better because he did it on 7 for 9. You want to make 9 lifts. So this wasn't quite as clean as Sheffield, but there's more meat on the bone for Jesus Olivares.
Rick?
Yeah, very similar thoughts to Matt. As much as I would love to laud this as another time I was right and Matt was wrong, you frankly kind of talked me into it on the last podcast, Ryan. So this is more of an assist. You can be the Stockton and my Malone for the old basketball heads. But no, yeah, this is the same setup as a Sheffield, engineered to enhance performance, as Matt Gary has accurately said, and then in his backyard. So those two things right there give him that situational ability to potentially, capitalize on this opportunity. And clearly he did. And I would say the deadlift was cleaner than the one that he got at Sheffield. That was, I don't think people wanted to talk about that was a little more of a controversial deadlift than it really was because of how historic it was. It was the first Sheffield. We're all caught up in the moment. But like when I look back at that and I really tried to put on my referee hat, I'm not sure I would have passed that deadlift, to be honest with you. And this one I thought was clean. And yeah, he just kind of overshot on his last 2 lifts. So it's like, shit, you could reliably tack another 10, 12 kilos on that total, which is crazy. I think it's awesome. So it was, yeah, I think Jesus is reminded everybody he's not done, which is great. which is awesome. I was really excited to see it, and yeah, it was dope.
Could you steel man case me a reason why? And maybe you actually think this. You don't have to steel man it. Maybe you actually believe the Sheffield performance ranks higher than SBD Austin performance, and why it might. If you had to make that argument, how would you do so? Or do you
I
actually
wouldn't.
believe that anyways? What are your beliefs, Perk?
No, oh, Perk. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
so I mean, I agree with everything, Matt and Eric have said. From an athlete's perspective, I would say I don't think it's as good as Sheffield. I think you have that point where I think, as a high level lifter, I think it would mean more if he did it at somewhere like a Sheffield because he had that travel. I think travel is like a huge thing. It's in his backyard, which is I feel like it's a positive, instead of a negative. It's easier to hit that total. I'm not saying that it's easy to hit that total because he had that time where he didn't hit the qualifying total for Sheffield, so that put him back. And then the next Sheffield he didn't do as well. But I definitely wouldn't say that it's as good as his Sheffield performance just because it wasn't 9 for 9, but it's still a crazy performance because he went over the world record. I don't know how he would feel personally, but to me, I would be like, um, I wish that I would have hit those last ones because it would have been even better because we wouldn't have been having the discussion at all if he would have hit the deadlift. I'll take the bench. The deadlift, I'll say it's whatever because he went for the win. And like Matt said, when it comes to fatigue, squatting 1,000 twice in one day and then trying to pull a huge PR as well, that's just a lot to ask for in one day for I think any given athlete. I think the same thing for me. If I try to squat 700 twice in the same day and then try to pull 360, I honestly don't think that 360 would fall. I think I would be so exhausted at that point. But all around though, I still think it's an amazing performance, top three performance, probably his second best performance, just because of, like we said, Sheffield, you had to do the travel. And I honestly think it's crazy that the warm-up room is downstairs and you have to go upstairs. That's like a whole bunch of other things that like you have to take into account. I am glad that it was like, I don't know if it was easier, but I would think it was easier. I think Sheffield definitely was not Sheffield. Advances was easier for me because it was technically backyard. I drove 3 hours. But it's better than I have anxiety flying. I don't like flying at all. I feel like that takes into stuff into account. I lose so much weight on the flight and stuff like that. Like Matt said, this is his second heaviest he's ever weighed in. Do you know, was his heaviest the previous Sheffield? Like
Yeah, his
this
heaviest ever
Sheffield?
was, yeah, the heaviest that he ever weighed in was 2024 Sheffield. So this was, and his historic performance, of course, was the
2023.
2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think it was a great performance. I just wish he would have gotten the bench because I think it would have been even crazier. Like just 10 kilos more would have been insane because that would have been 11 kilos, correct? If I'm doing math right. That would have been like, I always say if someone wants to say they're better than me, Jesus has it every day. I think even with this performance, it's still better than me because like I'm not doing that shit, bro. I'm not squatting 1,000 twice in one day. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but I still think like when it comes down to it, all the factors leading into Sheffield definitely meant more, and that's the only way you could take away and say that Sheffield was better. But on paper, if you look at the results, you see the total, it's definitely a better competition for him.
So I'm actually going to agree with Perk here. I'm kind of surprised that between Matt and Eric, I didn't get more leaning in that direction. But let me double down on a couple things Perk said.
Mhm.
For me, it's true that the total he got in 2025 was 7 lifts, but you can't lose historical significance of that was 2023. So he moved up half a kilo, but it's 2 years later. So significance wise, 2023 stands up, as well as the fact he went 9 for 9. And to go 9 for 9 at an international level, when you had to travel, you had IPF judging. Eric, you make a good point that last deadlift was still a little sketchy. However, and the refs took it and the jury gave it to him. However, the it's just like winning a close boxing match. It was close, split decision, but it was still yours. And the fact he went 9 for 9 at the biggest in first Sheffield in the biggest single day meet on the calendar, international judging, and we had never seen anything like that ever before. To me, it still reigns number one. Whereas SBD Austin, I think it ranks as his number two of all of his performances. It wasn't international judging. It was not, although it was clean judging and his lifts were clean, however. And nevertheless, we could expect this. We saw just half a kilo less 2 years earlier. So I would say this is number two for him. But I'll also say, for the points you guys made, the fact he did this and his shoulder wasn't 100%, that's why his bench wasn't there on the day. And the fact he did this and he really went super duper heavy on that last dead. If he just dropped it 5 kilos, he might have got it. He was an inch. That dead came out of his hands at lockout. If we're talking 5, maybe 10 kilos less, let's do 10 kilos less. He would have got that deadlift. So when his shoulder's 100% and his bench is there, if his deadlift is there, my God, like I think he's improved more than 0.5 kilos. And I think it could be there in the next time we see him. Eric, sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, if I could be so presumptuous to speak for both Matt and I think we're just being a little more literal to what you were asking about whether it was a better performance athletically. I see this very much like if you think about the documentary of famous Philly boxer Rocky Balboa, and like he did have an unfilmed fight against Apollo Creed. And if we saw that lost footage to time in the great real sports archives from this documentary, and we saw that fight was technically better than his championship bouts, where he went against Apollo, we'd be like, oh, that was a better performance. But the most important performance, the one that's going to go down in history, that I think is what you're stating, and I fully agree. The inaugural Sheffield, him blowing away the untested total, yeah, hands down, that is the one that is historically more significant. That's a different question than which was a better performance if we're talking athletic performance. If we mean like performance from like, like I'm performing for you, then I know I think Matt and I probably agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Because I think based off what we saw at SBD Austin, he's bigger and stronger than he was in 2023 Sheffield.
I will say, I'll add in, I do think if Bob wasn't there, he goes way over the world record total. If he wasn't pulling for the win, I think that he has I think he has 270 and I think he has 425. I will say that. I just think it comes up to it being a like Matt likes to say, an exhibition meet. I feel like if this was a world championship and he went all out and Sheffield didn't exist, I see him going well over that world record. I just think it's an all or nothing pool. It's hard to account how good performance is when you have an all or nothing pool in.
You're right. Yeah, if you just remove Bob Matthews, everything could have changed that day. Because I think we're all in agreement he's stronger than 1153.
Yeah.
And
I don't want anyone
to
to bite me for saying that. I think he had more. I think he had more. I'm saying that. I'm gonna put that out there.
100%. He's bigger and stronger than he was. He's the biggest and strongest we've ever seen him. And yeah, I can't wait to see him again at U.S. Nationals. It's going to be, because to your point, he won't have any major threats, and he won't load up just to load up. It'll just be, let's push this bad boy, and there's no danger of pushing the world record. The world record's not going to move, so why not? It's going to be exciting, and I'm so happy that he cleaned up his deadlift. He's worked so hard on it, and he's done such a good job cleaning up the deadlift technique. We've seen videos in prep, and he brought it to the platform, so all worked out for him. All right, here's the second question, and this one I'll start with Perk. Jaden Lowe, 83 kilo, Joey Flex athlete, just 20 years old. Jaden, just 20 years old. Only been competing for 2 years in powerlifting. Let that sink in. And despite all this, breaks the national record deadlift with 378 kilos and ends with 873 for a total. Now, I made a post about this. This makes him just below Taylor Atwood by 3 kilos and moves him above several time world champions like Jurens Kengamu, Russell Orhe, Delaney Wallace. Crazy that he's moved ahead of legends like that at only 20. 6 months ago, this man was a teenager. And 2 years, 2 years, 2023 was his first year. It, absolutely incredible. And he started in quarter 2 of 2023. So let me ask you, Perk, is Jaden Lowe now Joe B's biggest threat?
All right, so a few things. First off, I think Jaden is from Mississippi, and I'm from Mississippi as well, if I'm not mistaken. I love that. I didn't notice that until like a couple days ago. So he definitely got that dog in him. I'll say that. But when it comes to his biggest threat, I have competed against Taylor so many times, I just can't count him out. I can't count him out. I will say it is between Jaden and Taylor. Um, we don't know how consistent Jaden is right now. We do know how consistent Taylor is. Um, Taylor's been like an 83 for almost a year now, right? Over a year, a little
Mm,
bit over a year now.
yeah.
So he's just getting into it. So it's kind of like maybe apples to oranges a little bit. Jaden's only been doing this for 2 years. Taylor's only been at 83 for like a year and a half. Um, I am excited to see what they do at USA PA Nats. But when it comes to deadlift, yeah, I mean, there is no more, I think, for Joey B. Big pull for the win on the second attempt when there's someone comes like Jaden, because Jaden has that deadlift. So if his subtotal is high enough, I can't recall his subtotal from SBD Austin, like how easy it was.
Oh, how easy. Yeah. Well, he squatted 297.5 and he benched 197.5.
Yeah, I if that subtotal goes up, e- let's say put 10 kilos on each, I think it's whoever pulls last, you know? With Taylor, it's just how high can he get that subtotal because his deadlift isn't as high as the other guys. But I do think that Jaden is someone to look out for. I wouldn't, if I was Joey B, I would say I would go to PA Nats because Taylor is a wild card all the time, and Jaden is so young that I don't even know how many months now we have, like 3 or 4 months. Um, I think that's enough time to catch up to around that 900 to 905 to 910. Especially for someone who is so young and only been he still gets newbie gains, you know. He might figure out different leverages for him and his squat might go up 10 kilos. He might figure out how to bench and his bench goes up 10 to 7.5 kilos, you know. And deadlifts, when you're a deadlift specialist like that, I just feel like they can just put on whatever on the day and they can just pull it, you know. Um, that being said, I do think Jaden and Taylor are both like someone to watch, and they're probably closer to each other. And as long as they take the right attempts, I think they can be a very good opponent for Joey B.
Well, Eric, couple things reminder. Now, Perk said Taylor, but he also made a lot of good points for Jaden. Whether so, couple things here. Jaden coming in was in the 840s. He leaves in the 870s. Yes, he's 20. Yes, he's doing newbie games. Where does this end? And the difference for Taylor in 3, 4 months, if you think he's going to make massive gaps or massive leaps, or Jaden, it's, I don't know. Let me ask you.
I think when youth stays committed and injury free, that's the one you bet on. Um, I remember I was waiting for Agata to blow up, and she did at a little later point than I think a lot of people expected. Thankfully for me, because that meant just got to get a world title. And then her reign is here, you know, and she's an example of someone who was a junior and coming up and a teenager, and we're like, oh man, like she's got a lot of potential. And now we see the potential, and it is downright scary. I predicted a win from Alba Bostrom just a little too early. And now she's coming into her own. We're seeing those gains. Sometimes young lifters drop out, don't stay committed. I mean, it's like literally a formative time, people's brains and bodies, and not everyone wants to stick with, powerlifting or put the type of effort required to capitalize on that youthful genetic opportunity they have. But I'll say this, if Jaden keeps going, pushes as hard as he can, stays injury free, and is committed to powerlifting, I think his ceiling is higher. Will it come that soon? I think it could, but I've been wrong before guessing on that. And, you know, so I'm going to be lame and just say that and not actually predict.
I'm writing you down as a Jaden. You can't straddle that fence. Matt, we got two different opinions. Love it. Love it. Now you get to be the deciding tiebreaker here.
I don't disagree with anything that Austin or Eric said. I mean, that's valid information, valid points of emphasis on both sides. I'll go with the veteran Taylor, just because he's more proven, he's more reliable. Jaden was essentially at this meet, and all credit due to him for his performance, was kind of, more or less running his own race in a different kind of competition. When he goes head to head and there are decisions that need to be made against official ops, then it could flesh out much differently. And so Taylor clearly has that pedigree, that resume, that competitive experience, that dog in him from being in those types of moments. It doesn't mean that Jaden doesn't have the aptitude or potentially the ceiling to get there. I mean, Lord knows he probably does, being as young as he is. So I would just err with Taylor on the American side. And internationally, it's clearly Jurgens Kendamo. That's
right.
Clearly.
So
this guy.
That clearly on the international scene, Joe Bornstein's biggest opposition is Jurgens Kendamo. Full stop. Okay. Mic drop.
Perk, you agree?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Hey, look, listen. I don't know if I've seen as much as Matt, but I've seen some. Jurgens is like my big brother. I know what he's doing. He knows what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think internationally, Jurgens is definitely Joey B's op internationally. There's no doubt about that. Whoever makes it, I just think they shouldn't count Jurgens out. Like, I think that man has something in him that he wants to prove. He wants to show the world that he can. He hates being overlooked. I'll say that, and I'm never going to overlook him. I see what he's doing. I see the work he's putting in. He never counts himself out. I think that on any given day, we already saw what he did against Russ. If you go in underestimating him, he's going to show you why you shouldn't underestimate him.
Follow-up question for you, Perk. Is it true, are the true rumors true? You are assistant coach for Team GB. What's going on here? What the hell is going on here? Eric, what's going on? Are you in agreement?
All I know is these guys were wearing top hats, monocles, and drinking tea. Before we got on this podcast.
Yeah.
And they hid those things, and Perk
as soon as I hit record,
his
that
other
shit
glasses
came off.
on. Like he went from single monocle to glasses, and But people don't see what goes on behind the scenes at King of the Lifts.
They don't. No, they don't though, and it makes me sick. I don't like it.
Crumpets,
well, listen, let me just
crumpets and shit, and you know that, and you know they're not paying for those crumpets. That's sponsorship.
Nah, who put the bill for those crumpets?
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it there.
Shell companies. That's right.
Yeah. Of course. Honestly, I think so. Veterans like Taylor and Jurgens, you guys know how I feel about Taylor. You guys know how I feel about Jurgens and what they brought to the game. But if you said $1 million on the table, 2026, who's going to be the biggest threat? I'm going to say the kid that's 20 years old, only be competing 2 years and already is at 873 and is going to outpull all those guys. And he's got his deadlift. I don't know where his deadlift's going to end. And I think Jaden Lowe is a major threat that's going to emerge in 2026. And we just got a small dose of it. However, you guys are 100% right when you say Jurgens and Taylor are dogs and they are world champions attached to their names for a reason.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How many RP 9 to 10 deadlifts have you seen Jurgens do on the platform?
like in prep or
on the platform. That's all I'll say. I'll leave you with that to think about. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
however, not everybody can grind a deadlift. It's on or not. Not everybody grinds, but we'll see. I know what you're saying. I agree that his deadlift has come so damn far. Whereas his top end with his deadlift, if he really needs it, it'll be interesting to see if Jaden Lowe can threaten Joe B, or if Jaden Lowe, let's say all of them are at one meet and he ends up it becomes between those fellas defending, second and settling for a silver. I don't know. Whatever. I guess time is going to tell. All right. Megan Scanlon, after Worlds, I had said earlier, bad taste in her mouth. She came on the podcast. She said it was a very difficult Worlds prep. A lot of things going on in her personal life that just took her off track. She had a feeling this was not going to go her way. It did not. Had a very bad taste in her mouth due to that. She was talking about how if she had her 100% and lost, she could at least say, I had a good day, though. And hats off to her who beat me. But she's a legend. She did not have a good day, and things were not in her favor. On this redemption arc, which she's done as a very small 69-kilo lifter, not even filling out, let alone cutting, winning Avances, winning SBD Austin, and taking the American record. And again, for prosperity, in terms of comparison internationally, Corolla Gara is the number 169 right now. She did 588. She just recently did 580. Megan just did 580. She's right up in there in the hunt. Now, we know Megan is going to be going to Sheffield as a 63. Here's my question to you, gentlemen. Is Megan Scanlon once again the favorite? I'm going to throw this one first to Eric. Who is the favorite for Sheffield? Is it the returning or the current world champion, Alba Ballstrom? Young, destroyed people at juniors last year, moved into the open, took the title. Is it Cara Bernardi, whom is ready to pop? Everybody's saying she's ready to pop if she pulls it all together. Or is it the comebacking redemption arc, Megan Scanlon with a bad taste in her mouth?
That is hard. I do think there's probably the most obvious potential in Kiara. Um, like you said, ready. I think ready to pop is a good way to put it. I just don't think we've seen what she's actually capable of, and see that all come together. So that'll be very interesting. I think Megan is badass, and it's really cool to see her just clawing, scraping, and pushing higher and higher at a stage where a lot of people would expect she wouldn't be. So I can't be very confident in this answer. I think there's an argument for all of them, and I already gave you the pitch for Alba earlier, based upon age and commitment and her seriousness that she takes with the sport and coming into her own. So I'm actually really excited to see that one. And I honestly, I'd say flip a coin, but there's three of them, so you got to like flip some type of three-dimensional strange object. Is there any things that have three sides? Is that possible? What are we gonna do?
My
I think we need some
personality.
type of magician. Your person.
How about this?
He's
How about this?
tripolar, folks. Yeah.
Listen. You got $1 million on the table. I'm making you bet right now.
Mm.
You got $1 million. And listen, this isn't a Sheffield preview. Training leading up to Sheffield, when we do the Sheffield preview, you could change your mind and change your picks based off the training you see. But just as it stands right now, I got $1 million on the table and I'm forcing you to bet.
You know what? I'm gonna go Megan Scanlon. I because she finds a way, and if I were saying I could change it later, and I can recoup my investment based upon actually doing some op research and getting on Instagram,
Right.
and then yeah, I'm just gonna bet on the person who I want to win because I'm an old man and I'm trying to win stuff, and hell yeah, let's go, Meg.
You identify with their cause. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
she's my spirit animal more than anybody else, so I'll give her the money.
Gotcha. Matt, how about yourself?
Yeah, I would go Megan Scanlon as well.
Perk.
Look, listen, I'm gonna go Megan as well. Cause she, if I'm not mistaken, she weighed like only 3 kilos, 3 kilos over.
Around there. I can't remember exact body weight? Let me
Yeah,
take a look. Actually, it's a good
she weighed
question.
in at she weighed in at 67 kilos at SBD Austin, and she weighed 66.4 at Advances. So she's a tweener. She's right in the smack dab, essentially in the middle. I don't think it's going to be too strenuous for her to cut, to be in top form at Sheffield.
Yeah,
And
I think it's Megan, and also look, she had two twins. My wife gave birth. All I'm gonna say is that makes you stronger right up the back. That's it. She has that upon the other two. So that's why I'm gonna give Megan. So yeah, I'm going Megan. And it's crazy seeing her not compete, but seeing her at advances as well, and how she handled SBD Austin. It was very what's the word I want to use? It was very regular. It felt like a regular day. It didn't seem like she couldn't do it. She did it at advances and she did it basically again
Hmm.
a month later. I think that's very challenging to do. So I don't see why she can't either match her total at a lower weight class or 5 kilos under it, because both of them are decently easy, I would say. Definitely replicatable. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I ain't gonna say it now. I was gonna try to jump in and help you get the replicable. All right. Um, for me, I mean, we've seen the biggest total out of Meg, and her momentum cannot be denied. And obviously, she's game and she's extremely motivated all of a sudden. So especially riding off this high. However, I would lean towards Meg as well. But leading into the prep, I'm very curious to see what Alba does, because Alba's made huge gains in the last little bit, including winning a head-to-head battle. She's battle tested, and she was talking about mentally, not just physically. Obviously, she's gotten stronger, but mentally, she used to cave when it came to battles, and she openly said on the podcast she wouldn't be comfortable in a tight, close battle, looking across and seeing Megan, Kiara, etc. And she's now mentally so much better for these battles and proved it, winning the title. And then I swear to God, I'm paying very close attention to Kiara, because she could be like a Alba and just waiting her turn, and she's going to grab a title at some point. She's so close in the mix. But I'm okay with leaning towards Meg as well, just due to the momentum she has and the total she just posted up. And if she could carry that total into the 63s, well, what are we doing? 580s and the 63s? It's pretty nuts. So, all right, let's talk about Bobby Knuckles scrapping his way to the number one ranked 120 in 2025. The big total that people were talking about due to Rondell putting up 10-10 in U.S. Nationals. Rondell pulling out of this, and we needed something, some kind of storyline. Well, if Bob can hit 10-10.5, he bets Rondell's best total for 2025 and closes out 2025 as a number one ranked official 120 in a year that, yes, it did have Rondell competing in it. It's not a year he takes the best 120s because Rondell was on hiatus. Rondell had returned. Yes, he did. Now, kind of the same question in reverse, because just like Jaden Lowe, young guy, upstart, massive gains, oh my gosh, we have a bunch of 120s. Probably leading that pack is Nanzo. Of course, you got the reigning world champ, ETN. You know, we got some 120s come out the woodworks here. Did Bob establish himself as the number one threat to Rondell with that monster 10-10.5 for 2026 Worlds? Very careful. Not right now, but by 2026 Worlds. I'm choosing the question very wisely, because Nanzo and those juniors, their rate of adaptation and what they've done year over year. Matt, you're Team GB and you're also American. I'm splitting you all over the place here.
I'm laughing because I want to give you a more educated answer after next weekend, because next weekend is the British. And so that's when you'll have, of course, Nanzo and Josh and Goka and all those guys battling head to head. So I'd have a better idea. But I'll go out on the limb and say yes. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Look at the total, 10-10.5. This was unquestionably, irrefutably Bob Matthews' signature performance to date. I mean, this was flawless, exquisite. And so, yeah, 10.5 is objectively better than what Rondell did this year. Rondell, assuming we all wish him well in his health and his recovery and so forth, assuming Rondell comes in healthy and in top form, he's clearly the favorite, but Bob Matthews would be the biggest threat to that throne, throne that's yet achieved or just assumed, that Rondell would win. But Bob Matthews would be the biggest threat.
Eric, how close of a threat is he?
I think we need to take a second and appreciate, before I even answer that question, Bob's performance, the attempt selection, the grinds, and hold the phone. If this guy, before he got on the scale, had blown his nose, we would be looking at the heaviest 10 times body weight total in the IPF. After just having seen Russ do it at 91.8, getting 918, he weighed in at 110.75 and he totaled 110.5. I'm comfortable saying
right.
that this is no, I don't think people get how insane this total is. Putting up a 10 times body weight total at 93 is something. At 105 is something. He's a 110 and he just did a 10 times body weight total. He's tested.
Not
basically.
Quite, because he would need an 1107 for it to be a 10 times body, if we're doing the math right.
I am bad at math. Take everything back that I said. I have mild dyslexia and I have a PhD.
God, you got me so excited.
Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I was looking at this and I was like, oh, I got something that's going to, no one's talking about this. It's because they are smarter than me and they can do math and I can't.
Like it would be why 11. Is nobody talking about this?
I've been doing that for like a week. I've been like, why is no one talking about this?
Yeah.
I saw it. I was watching. So this is legit. I was competing at Worlds, right? So I couldn't watch it live. So I'm watching the replay and I'm like, these guys are missing out. Like, why aren't they talking about him hitting the 10 times body weight total? It's because he didn't, you idiot. So I'll like this. Well, somebody cut this out. I don't know who's editing. Ryan's not going to cut it out. This is too funny to remove.
Too lazy.
But we'll just go back to your question. And I'd say I agree with Matt. We'll just leave it there. So I can just, drop the mic and leave and not embarrass myself any further.
Well, I got to follow up anyways. You made some good points nevertheless. In terms
being
of
90 kilos off, I don't deserve to be on the show anymore. What are we talking about? Come on.
Okay, You're freaking, you got a PhD. You're far more qualified than I am.
But do I get to keep it now after that? I mean, come on.
Yeah. We're going to talk after. Yeah. You better hope no one listens to this podcast who can revoke it.
I'm about to get Mike Israel after that. No,
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Is there an argument to be made? And then I want to get Perk's impression of this. Is there an argument to be made with what Bob Matthews is doing that he is the pound for pound king?
If Perk wasn't on this podcast, no, I'm just kidding. I see that's a good question. I personally think he's definitely in the running. But yeah, like I think we would need to actually look at, like, I would need to sit here and look at formulas. Because if we're talking pound for pound king, that's not a vibes thing. Like, we actually do have some metrics for that. I also don't think Perk has shown his top end, So Bob was limit lifts at Austin. Impressively so, That was him at that weight at this time point in his 120 journey, making the perfect calls, so coaching, hats off. Like the fly lands on the bar on that squat, it's not going up. I was so impressed with the attempt selection and the grind. So yeah, I think I think that's very debatable, and I would actually want to sit here and look at some formulas. But I think I still got the crown on Perk's head personally.
Perk will be the last guy I asked this one to. I'm going to throw this to Matt as well. But what he's doing can essentially not even a full 120. It is remarkable in terms of formulas. Formulas matter. You got the majority. There's 3 formulas. You got the majority of the formulas. They matter, but it is something special what he's doing. And however, Perk is yet to go. And if he posts up, some kind of crazy 900 at Sheffield, no less, and we're going to be talking about like Jesus 2023. But let's not go ahead to the future yet. Let's just hold it. What has been accomplished right now, what we're looking at in 2025. Matt, what do you think? Is he in the debate at least for being pound for pound?
No. It's Austin, and it's not even close. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here. So,
Austin, I think I know which way you're swinging, but what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so how I look at things more honestly these days, besides the pound for pound, is how close he is to the weight class above. And I was going to say it sucks, but because he has Jesus in it, but like in the weight class above. But I have Joey B in the weight class above me. And if we take, and everyone calls, I think he's below me when it comes to, like right below me when it comes to pound for pound. I think he would probably go, as of right now, if we take all of the, not potential, and we take what's happened this year, I think it goes me, Joey B, Bob. I can't think of anyone else right now. If I'm mistaken you, I'm sorry. But
Maybe Anthony McNaughton if he bumps his total up.
I was about
So
to
Anthony,
say.
yeah, definitely Anthony, which is all that's all in my mind right now for Sheffield is Anthony. So yeah, I think he's very close. A couple years ago, he was pound for pound, no doubt. He was taking all of those when USAPL was the affiliate of the IPF. He was doing all of that, beat me so many times. I think he's the only person. Him and Ashton, the only people I've never beaten when it comes to like competitions. Whenever it's pound for pound. So I think he's very close when it comes to it. But yeah, I think when he gets to that 120, we'll see something crazy. At 10 kilos does definitely makes a difference. So I think probably he will give me a huge run for my money in probably a year or two. But I guess we'll have to see what happens in January for me. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Matt, let me ask you something. Off the hop, do you believe Anthony McNaughton could total 1,000 pounds or 1,000 kilos?
yes.
Okay. Now, do you believe? Well, first off, does that put him in the conversation for pound for pound?
McNaughton?
Yeah, if he does.
No.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, look, people want to see the biggest people shift the biggest weights. Austin has admitted that. And that's why Austin routinely and respectfully tips his cap to Jesus Olivares. Because at the end of the day, people want to see the apex predator, the largest human being in the room, lift the most amount of weight. So the lighter, smaller guys, while objectively they are pound for pound stronger, they often get overshadowed by larger human beings who are just lifting more weight. But if we're talking pound for pound, it's Austin. It's not even close. It's 11.65 times body weight, and that was with his 858 total. So, he's going to knock that out of the park at Sheffield, even if he doesn't total 900. But anyway, continue.
I will say we can't just use body weight multipliers though.
You're right. You're right. We can't. But he's in another galaxy ahead of it. Like it's not even close. I agree. Right? It's not even close. So when you look at all the other people, I mean, Joe Jordan and his recent performance, he went over 11 times body weight. So anyway, there's other people, but yes, it's extraordinarily impressive if McNaughton goes over 1,000. What Bob just did is unreal. What Rondell has done is incredible. But yeah,
I think Chell actually when he totaled 770.
Totally. There's a lot of names.
He got closer than probably anybody else.
Right.
All right, Matt. Tell me about the Ashton Rouska performance. What are your thoughts on that and his possible contendership in 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just incredible performance, right? I mean, comes out, American record in the squat, unofficial world record, and is operating essentially on 1.5 packs, because of his pec injury. that he sustained, pre Sheffield this year, and that's not 100. And I mean, Eric and I kind of talked about that, and we didn't think that his pec would be back. I think both of us said, look, if he can get to 195 bench, and he finished on 192. He took really small attempts. That was smart. It's like, hey, let me just sustain a total here and just kind of stack attempts and get to the deadlift, which is where I also excel. And then he was able to pull, a huge deadlift. But he went 9 for 9. So again, credit to him and his coach, Marcellus Williams, with pristine attempt selection, pristine execution. And this is an unbelievable performance for him because he totaled 953, right? Going 9 for 9. So if we just, again, we're all talking hypothetically, if he were to get his bench back to where it was, I believe his PB is 215. That's another 22 and a half kilos. And oh, by the way, what number does that give us? That gives us the world record that Anthony McNaughton just hit in Germany of 975 and a half. So a full 100% Ashton Ruska, could be, essentially Anthony McNaughton's, top challenger. And so clearly one would assume that Anthony is doing well, that his training is going well, that he's healthier, that he's healthy, et cetera, that his training has excelled. And so presumably he's above 975.5 now, and we'll see what he's capable of at Sheffield. And so, but it sets the table for a really amazing, U.S. nationals next year in 2026, depending upon which of the Sheffield competitors decide to actually come to nationals, based upon the team selection criteria. But yeah, I mean, Ashton Ruska's performance was just, it was outstanding. And it was just really exciting to see him lift that way after not having the Sheffield performance that he had wanted, because of the injury. So just thrilled for him, ecstatic.
And the freaking hype on him coming out for that last squat when he punched the wall. And I swear to God, like he was like emotional afterwards. Like it gets you hyped as a viewer when he's that in the moment. And then for him in the deadlifts to have passed out on his opener, and usually you're not bouncing back. And it was literally, I came out hitting national records. I'm either going to hit these lifts or I'm going to be going out on my shield/stretcher if this doesn't go well. And he was hitting second, third, and pushed it. I mean, freaking the heart on Ashton to do what he did. Hats off to him. Eric, let me ask you something. Keenan Lee cannot be forgotten. Is Keenan Lee, whom Keenan came on the podcast shooting from the hip, love it. And he said, famously now, I told my wife, whom this is before U.S. Nationals, I told my wife, you know what? We're thinking about booking our wedding and honeymoon in Europe. Let's cater it to around Germany because I think I'm going to be at the World Championships. And and obviously indicating he thinks he's going to win U.S. Nationals. And then he said, you know what? Let's hold off visiting England because I think the following year I'm going to be at Sheffield as well. And he was talking big, and people were like, wow, that's some bold talk. And he was talking about 1,000 kilos. Now, all the comments of, he's addressed this when we did the live in studio podcast at Worlds. People are like, this is how you fail successfully. He ended up going to Worlds. He ends up going to Sheffield, all the rest of it, but he is legitimately world class. And it would be foolish to look past him because anyone who's looking at his total, he was injured for the majority of, and yet still able to make it Worlds while not 100%, yet still able to make it to Sheffield. And these were not just friendly invites. He did it, earning it by the numbers. This isn't, well, I like him. He's a good talker. He is that. He's charismatic, and he is that. But that's not what this was. By the numbers, earned his way onto U.S. national team. By the numbers, due to being the second highest in terms of the silver medals, etc., earned his way onto Sheffield. So let's get that clear. Mm-hmm. Number two, Eric, can Keenan Lee push his total to 1,000 kilos?
I think he's definitely in the mix, and he should not be overlooked. His pathway to Worlds in Sheffield was funny. And then that story's cool. But yeah, when you're totaling what he totaled, beat up, um, and when you listen to him talk, like as a coach and as someone who's watched the game a long time, like there is a certain bravado and um, optimistic naivete that I think many lifters have. But some lifters are able to maintain that optimism and the willingness to push themselves into a place they're not sure they can get while still being realistic about their potential. Um, that I think is actually a sign of maturity and also makes them very threatening. Because I think, when we talk about having a dog in you, um, a lot of people talk about having no barriers, believing anything is possible, and I can push through it. That's not having a dog. I think that is honestly an athlete, in many cases, um, is combating their own insecurity. And you hear it a lot. And you hear it a lot in younger athletes, or less developed athletes, just how long they've been lifting. I think Perk's actually a great example of someone who has very high expectations and hopes, but he's also very realistic about where he can be. And what you see in those athletes is they make good decisions in training. They're more coachable. They make good attempt selection, and they're more likely to figure out what their potential is on the day and capitalize on it. The athletes who are like, I have no limit, and it's like they're basically believing their own hype and kind of coming into that social media personality all the time. They typically don't do well on the platform, and I think Keenan is actually very good at gauging, at keeping that balance. So when he talks about where he thinks he can go, and like I'm hurt right now, but I really do think I could probably get to 1,000. I don't think he's far off. So I don't
Hmm.
think he should be counted out. Um, so no, I think he's definitely in the mix. And this is a little bit of a side tangent. I'm curious about Bob's psychology. But let's say, and God forbid, that the injury right now with means that Bob decides not to go into the 120s because he doesn't have the person to chase anymore. The 105s are looking pretty fun now. If you're thinking about head-to-head battles and him, how hard he's working to get to 110, 111, I think it'd be really easy for him to make 105, and I don't think he'd lose much strength. And now he's facing a bunch of guys fighting for 1,000, and he just needs to hold on to 1,000. So I am curious about what's going to be going on in Bob's head based upon what happens with the 120s. I mean, granted, like you said, there's a bunch of young 120s who are coming up, so maybe it gets more competitive. But he's chasing the dragon right now, and unfortunately, the dragon just got hurt, So I wonder where his head's at.
Yeah, that's an interesting proposition. If he went back to 105 and all those fellas, by the time he comes down, have all hovered around 1,000 kilos themselves, all of a sudden they're gonna, instead of being afraid, they'll be like, come on down. Come hop in the pool. Let's splash around a little bit. Nobody's backing up in here. Perk, who is the number one threat for Anthony McNaughton as it stands right now?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's Keenan right now. I think I said this on the last podcast I did with you, but that is one of the reasons why Joe isn't coaching me at Sheffield, and it's going to be my wife coaching me because I think like I have a goal. We all know my goal is 900 at Sheffield. After last block, I 100% think it's 890 to 900 is there. Like Eric said, I'm not gonna be that guy that's like I know 100% I'm gonna hit this. It's the goal. When I have a goal in my head, I always shoot for it. Like we knew for 800, I did the exact same thing. But when it comes to Keenan, I do think like the more time he has, the more healthier he gets, and the more likely he will be able to total 1,000. And let's say I don't have my best there the day that I won at Sheffield, I think Anthony and Keenan are the ones to look out for. And that's why I can't have Joe is my coach, but he's also my friend. I would hate to put him in that position. I always use Daniela Mello and Amanda Lawrence as the example. I don't want to put him in that position because it just would be a very hard call to make, you know? Like let's say it comes down to it and it's my last deadlift. He pulls after me. Everyone pulls after me. So who's to say if I was a coach, I'm going to put on whatever Keenan needs, to win that. I don't want to have him be in that position. And whatever happens. And he's like, oh, well, I think this is a safe call for you, Austin. And we put that number in. And then I definitely had more in the tank. And Keenan, he puts 2.5 more kilos on for Keenan. And I'm like, well, damn, I definitely had 2.5 kilos more. That would make me feel a type of way. And I'd rather not put him in that position. So all that to say that I do think Keenan is Anthony's, number one op. I think that it's there. I think on the day, maybe they're both floating around that 1,000. Do we pull for placement? Do we pull to get second, or do we pull to beat whoever's in first? So I think that both of those guys are super strong. I can't wait to see what both of them put together. They're pushing me. That's why I'm pushing bench so hard. That's why squat's going the way it's going for me. I refuse to let anyone take it away. And I think that these guys are the closest to snatching that title away from me.
I would say don't let anyone take it away from you in terms of, you're talking about a handler handling two people going head to head, not wanting to put Joe in that position. Don't put yourself in that position, because I've said it before. I'm not going to relitigate this. Me and Matt on the same page. Pretty sure Eric is too. It is
100%.
literally, I would go as far as to say, I don't want to get too tough on this, but it's almost unethical to be playing chess against yourself. That's what you're doing. You can't. If the two guys are close, two girls are close, you can't do it. You literally shouldn't do it. The coach should bow out. It should be if two athletes like we're cool with it, the coach should say, I'm not cool with it. I'm not going to do that. I know both your trainings, and I could play you can't. But for a million reasons, blah, I don't want to get into that. Yeah. So how about this, Matt, Natalie Richards, a long storied comeback here, and emotional on the platform with how far she's come, how much she's battled from the top of the mountain at Worlds, being a world champion and winning best lifter, to what she's had to go through. And that was 2023 Malta, which is a lifetime ago, it feels like, in powerlifting years. And here we are, 2025, at the tail end, and finally gets into not even at 100% yet, but even though it's not at her old 100%, we're there, and there's a reason to believe, and there's a reason to hope. And you could see it on her face. She had a moment on that platform, and everybody loves Natalie. She's been on the podcast a million times. I've done commentary with her. Most people are you're immediate fans when you watch her. What was that moment for you? Because I know you're well updated on her comeback and everything. And what are your thoughts for what this means for her 2026?
First of all, I couldn't be any happier for Natalie Richards. I mean, first of all, she's a rock star human being, and so you consider that, and then secondly, just the fact that she's been able to come back, from being an injury riddled campaign last year to where she is now, which is, I mean, she totaled 510 kilos. Her PB total is 516.5. So, and she missed her third bench, so she lost 5 kilos there. So the fact that she's at 99% of her previous best is exciting to see. And so anybody who comes off of an injury and puts in the requisite work and the persistence and the consistency to battle back deserves a tremendous amount of respect. And so I'm thrilled for her. This was a phenomenal performance. She placed third overall. Had she made that bench, I think she could have potentially moved up a placing. And of course there would have been changes in the temp selection on the end of the deadlift at the end of the day. But this bodes very well for her for 2026, Ryan, to answer your final question, because she just hit a 510 total. She's building momentum. I think she's now convinced herself, hey, I can get back on the competitive platform and push a little bit and not injure myself. So there's kind of this relief of walking off the platform and say, hey, I'm not dead. I made it. I walked away unscathed. And so now you can go back into the lab with her coach, Steve DeNovi, and continue to, cook up a formula and a recipe that gets her to PA Nats and hits a total there that's presumably going to qualify her and get her on the team to go to Worlds. And then lock horns with the usual suspects at Worlds, and she's immediately right back in the mix. right? With the Jad Jacobs, with the Sarah Naldis, with the Joy Namanis, with the Bobby Butter, with all of those ladies. She's right there, because she didn't have the performance that she wanted last year. So I think this is fantastic. It's a momentum builder for her, and her arrow is pointing back up again.
Eric, we had talked going into SBD Austin about Delaney Wallace moving up. And we'd also said, joking around, when you try to scout for my man, you're not seeing squats, but he'll get you a deal on real estate. He's got you some investment options if you got the cash. Like, it was very close to the chest with his cards. But we all agreed as an 83, I mean, his quads were feathered and his whole, I don't know, all the bodybuilding lingo that you were saying. He's very low body weight. Seen him at Austin. Gave him a hug in the warm up, and I was like, holy shit, he is thick and not chubby at all. Like you had said, very little body fat needed to be added for him to move to 93, and he's just 93. He's
Yep.
not cutting yet. He's walking in, fully eating meals, etc. So he could for sure still add on another 3 kilos of body mass for his 2026 campaign. And he was, with that last deadlift, inch away from 900 kilos. And it was last year that 900 kilos was the barrier the 93s are trying to cross. I know a bunch of them have crossed it now, but he's not far behind. Very close, very similar in my estimation to when he went for the 83 kilo world record at Sheffield, missed it, just that lockout, came back the next year, hit it, and took the world record away from Russell, or he no less. Alleviating that shadow that Russ had over the 83s during Delaney's reign, him being able to do that. So it was a big moment for him. That's what that last deadlift to total 900 kilos looked like to me. Interested in getting your input. Were you surprised by, the way he had handled himself, how strong he looked as a 93? What do you think he could possibly look like in 2026 with another 3 kilos? Because you were pretty accurate with your estimation in the preview show.
Yeah, I think it's just early days. I think he is going to be following that same trajectory as Russ, and we're going to finally see these two start to clash, which we never really got. They were kind of operating in different federations or different times, chasing each other's numbers and maintaining a friendship because they're, working on the same squad. But now we're going to see them in the 93s clashing, having followed the same arc. I think going over 900 is just a matter of a few more meets and a few more kilos on his frame. And we're going to see it. And the question is it going to be enough? And how many other 93s are in the mix? Because we could legitimately have an 83s only or a 93s only full flight money meet out there just to crown the best 93, best 83. And by the way, SBD, if you're listening, or Avansis, or anybody who wants to do a money meet, that would be dope. Because there quite literally are 10 people, and because of the mechanics of nationals, they don't all get to go to head to head. So just imagine. I mean, US alone, we got 693s, and somebody find Chance Mitchell on the street. We got 7. We can get these guys all going head to head, and then you got that many internationally as well who you could bring in. You could quite literally have 10 93s, maybe 10 83s. I have to think a little bit harder about that, because some of them have now just gone up and left the 83s. And you could have a meet that is just like, and you could have it be 1993 themed and get some G.I. Joe playing in the background. You can make me feel like I'm 10 years old again. I would like it. That's probably less important than getting them there. But now that I've said it out loud off the cuff, I really like that idea. The 90s were a great time.
Hopefully that's not the deal breaker for SBD. All right, gentlemen. Yeah, full on agree. I think this is early days. Good point. Now, Russ is going to be at Sheffield, so they probably won't clash at U.S. Nationals unless, look at some of these fellas, like Megan, for instance. Some of them have said, I might not be comfortable with what I posted at Sheffield in terms of, it depends on how the day goes, if they go 9 for 9, etc. If they miss their last squat or their last deadlift, just missed it. I'm like, you give me another shot. I think I hit that. You give me that last one. I throw another 10 kilos. Now I'm comfortable. It'll be interesting how many of them compete at Sheffield and then turn around and compete again at US Nats just to solidify because they're a little nervous. They're like, I'm not sure. Somebody like Megan has openly said, I'm good with competing every 6 weeks. Be damned. I'm pushing, she's 37 years old, whatever. Like, I feel great doing this obviously, hitting PRs back to back. So quickly after Worlds, so quickly after advances. Sheffield, bring it on. US Nats, no problem. See you there. See you there. So we'll see what happens. But all that to say, we might have to wait a stitch to see Delaney versus Russ. But when those two rematch, they're just going to be both more established as 93s. And I didn't even think about that. That's one I actually got to see. Let's sort this out, fellas. Let's sort it out on the same day, same platform, as opposed to chasing each other's PRs. All right. I would like to open this up to the table. I have some generalized questions, but we're getting awfully close to 90 minutes. Trying to keep this one a little bit tighter because I also have later on Marcellus, Bobby Knuckles, and Ashton coming on the podcast. But fellas, some more highlights and thoughts from SBD Austin. If you got anything you want to throw out there, anything that had stood out. We had people like Jackie Malater, who had a great showing. Sean Noriega didn't have the day he wanted. I believe he might have been dealing with some issues, but scrappy nevertheless. Jamie Fisher, obviously very solid on bench press. Anything Chelsea Savage? Oh, by the way, let me also say we'd be remiss if we didn't give a hats off to Joshua Hill, Victor Rodriguez, and Leah Goldring, whom very late notice, those people got the phone call saying, would you like to step up into prime time? And they said yes. And you never know how it's going to go when people step up into prime time, if the value of it, the excitement of it drops off. Leah having some insane scraps to hit PRs on her lifts, wild scraps on the platform, which is very entertaining to watch. And then you got Victor Rodriguez taking a national record deadlift, and a man his size, he's a 105, he's huge in real life. That's 231-pound man, smashing a national record deadlift, taking off his belt and doing a backflip. When a man that size, that's A-level athlete, can smash a national record deadlift, turn around, do a freaking backflip like that a second later. Crazy to watch. Wildly entertaining, extremely strong guy. And then Joshua Hall himself taking a national record deadlift. It was crazy. These fellas and Leah stepping up on very short notice and weren't just also rants, weren't just happy to be here, legitimately added to the entertainment, legitimately swinging at and taking national records and bringing their piece of the puzzle. Eric?
Yeah, there's one shout out I just thought of, and I wanted to give it to Jess Bittner because we know she's been hurt and body weight. She's moved to the 84s and it hasn't eventuated into the kind of total that I think everyone was expecting and she wanted to see. But I think it is just a matter of time because she hit a PR on both her squat and her bench. And once she gets back to being her normal forklift self, I think we're going to see a 600 total. So I sent her a message as soon as I saw she hit 112 and 222 because those have been long in the making. That she's wanted to hit those. And I know she was ecstatic to probably see that, and it kind of came all together last minute. But Ryan, I know you love to see that too. Hometown girl, hometown hero, and big just hats off. I know how good it feels to hit a PR after long time not being able to. So yeah, it's great.
Got to get that dead back. If she does, you're right. Hitting PRs in squat, hitting PRs in bench. If that deadlift comes back, 600 is definitely on the table. Also, you know what? We should probably dive. Let me ask you, Matt, about Joe Jordan and the 66s and how that bodes for.
True.
I was just about to shout him out. I was just about to shout him out.
You know what? Let me give it to you first, Austin, then we'll throw it to Matt then. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Joe Jordan, 66 kg world champion, 2026. Can we say it? Is it going to happen? I saw him before the competition day before because they did a photo shoot with SBD, and he was locked in, man. He was ready. He was prepared. I just want to say very well executed competition. Everything was dialed in. Temp selection was amazing. I definitely think he had kilos in the tank on some lifts, like just a few. But I'm excited to see what he does with the 66s. in the coming year. And for moving forward, because I trained with him whenever Bench Worlds was in Austin last year. He was a cool guy to train with, cool guy to talk to. So I'm just excited for him, and I'm happy he's finally showing the world what he can do. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future because I think the sky's the limit. I think he'll be the person that can get close to Shell's world record, if anyone, right now.
Well, so I mean, I'll tell you right now, he's definitely at the forefront for the 66s. We'll see what's coming out of France and coming out of some of these other nations. People are popping up all over the place. French 74s and 83s are popping off like crazy all of a sudden. French Nationals is also in December. So we got British Nationals, French Nationals. We have a bunch of Nationals in December, and people are starting to pop up doing crazy things. But off the top of my dome, Joe Jordan, oh my gosh, 2026 might be a banner year. Okay, Matt, I'll throw it to you. Your thoughts on Joe Jordan or anyone else in the fleet?
Yeah, starting with Joe, everything that Austin said is spot on. I mean, just a phenomenal performance, totaling 732.5, which is objectively the second best total we've ever seen all time in the 66s. Now, of course, this was done stateside and not done internationally, so we got to factor that in. But yeah, I mean, look, he's got to be right now the front runner. We would assume, going into the World Championships. I mean, he has turned the corner now, linking himself with Jason Tremblay and the strength guys. Because when you just go back through his open powerlifting and you look at the career of Joe Jordan, he was inconsistent, and now shout out to my good friend and colleague Jason. I mean, the game day coaching and the attempt selection and the execution at this meet were pristine, and he's done that now. I mean, he did that in China, and now he's abroad, at the World Games, and now he did it, in the United States at SBD Austin, and just a phenomenal performance. So if he can continue to build on that momentum and build on that foundation that he's built with Jason, I think he's got to be the favorite going into Worlds. And so just a phenomenal performance for Joe and Team TSG, and couldn't be any happier for them. And so, I mean, he was kind of the standout for me on the on the men's side, not named Bob Matthews, Aston Ruska, et cetera, that we've already talked about. Was a little bit disappointed that the Jonathan Garcia didn't make weight. Don't know what happened there, but just was a little bit over. So, we weren't treated to that battle that I think, we were looking forward to, that we anticipated. Likewise with Sean Noriega, and then on the women's side, to your point, Ryan, just ecstatic for Jackie Malater. Just a phenomenal PB total for her. To go 8 for 9 and total 570, that's a freaking huge total. And nice to see her make a third deadlift in a situation where she's got other girls around her. She's made third deadlifts before in competitions where she's been running her own race, but sometimes it's missed in these battles. And so thrilled for Jackie, just a really fantastic performance. And overall, just on balance, this was a phenomenal competition to watch. You had 12 and 12. Mm-hmm. And the attempt selection and the execution was phenomenal. 91% of the lifts were made. There were only 9 lifts missed on the women's side and only 10 lifts missed on the men's side. And oh, by the way, there was only 1 squat missed on the entire men's side, and that was Sean Noriega's opener on depth. So we're talking about just an unbelievably, exceptionally executed meet by all these lifters. Anybody can go out there and miss big lifts, and none of us, even as fans of the sport and people watching on live streams and so forth, want to see these bloodbaths. We want to see people going out and lifting well and executing well and hitting the biggest weights when it matters most. And so that was just thrilling to see, because everybody averaged over 8 attempts out of 9. And that's exactly what you want to see as a spectator, as a fan of the sport. And it's good. It helps powerlifting when you have lifters making big lifts in key moments. And so just a shout out to all of the lifters and all of the coaches for a wonderful day.
I got to echo those sentiments. I mean, some of the third attempts too. Yeah. SBD put out a video, Bob's third attempt, that lasted forever. Already talked about Leah Goldring's third attempt that was literally paused like however many times on the way up. It was crazy too. We had a lot of scrappy lifts here. Ashton passing out on deadlifts, rallying back. Like, these people were refusing to be bowed. Yeah, the battle of the 69s, holy smokes, they live up.
Mm.
I know Gabby Martinez probably wants to add more kilos onto that total, miss a couple thirds, but her presence being there with Jackie Malater and of course Meg. You got the young upstart Angelina Martinez, who's fresh out the juniors, so just adding more kilos, and she's still growing into the class herself. But it's very healthy on in the 69 kilo class in the American side. And we didn't even have Celine the Machine yet. Wait until the machine. You know what I love is that we saw the battle of the 69s and Celine the Machine sitting back like, I'll see you at Nets. I'll see you. These are the ladies afraid. I'm not afraid. I'll see you at Nets. You're posting up. And Celine also with the aforementioned strength guys who have done phenomenal with Joe Jordan. Celine's the exact same ever since she's been with the strength guys. Onwards and upwards, and she very rarely misses. So Megan's got scraps at Sheffield and moving up to 69. She'll have scraps at American Nationals, moving to Worlds. The big boss, Corolla Gara, Hall of Famer, world champ in and out of equipment, scraps at Worlds. It's going to be a it's going to be a freaking phenomenal 2026 for the 69 kilo class. But anyways, all right. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, I feel comfortable with what we did. We put in some good work here. I just want to say, yeah, Megan Lee Smith, just a little round off. We do a little State of the Union with 490.5 Oceania Championships. My prediction, I don't think this is overly bold. We're going to see a 52 go over 500 kilos, which is freaking crazy. But at 490.5 for a new world record at the Oceania, Megan Lee Smith is a freaking monster and has moved herself as the premier 52. And New Zealand just not letting go of their stranglehold. It's like Evie passed the baton and said, yeah, okay, look at that. Evie passed the baton and said, take this for me. Also, Ivan Campano in the 66 is talking about a Sheffield prep, putting up 675 in the gym. Ivan is leveling up like crazy. Extremely excited to see what he does. Already mentioned in terms of updates, Agatha Shitko, we are all waiting with bated breath. What kind of suspension she get? She said she's going to get a year, and I believe it's not retroactive. Not sure on that piece. I asked her in a DM. She said, I think it's November to November, but she's not entirely sure, but she does have a year on the books. And I already said about Gara just recently at the Nationals doing 580, and I believe Sarah Naldi as well doing in the 520s again. So Sarah Naldi restaking her claim as the premier 57. I want to get right before we leave, then last question. I just want to get Perk's impression. We're a week out from Ilya as a 74. He had a great gym total. He's looking fantastic, and we might see finally him at the world stage. What do you think he's going to post up in the comments? Somebody put 850. He put no. And then someone said 845. People are making predictions in the comments when I reposted this. What are you thinking here?
I think 850 could be there. He'll need a really, really good day. That's like I say perfect day 850, which is like 7.5, 7 kilos, something like that over the world record. It would suck, but I mean 7 kilos taken away isn't too terrible. Shell adding like 30 kilos a year before. So um I think he'll do great, man. I'm excited to see what he does. I probably won't be able to watch it because they compete at like 2 a.m. Unless like the baby's up at 2 a.m. I'm probably gonna be asleep. But I see him if not breaking the world record total, which it'll be like that's like a Hail Mary. I do see him breaking the deadlift world record, probably around that 350, which would be really good for him. So we'll see. Excited to see. I don't
Austin's literally sleeping on him.
I'm not sleeping on him. I'm not
Wordplay.
sleeping on him.
My man dropping the wordplay like Kendrick Lamar over
Look
here.
at this, look at this.
My man is God damn, that's a
But I
sound.
think 850 is there. And I mean I hope he hits it. That'll be great. Some very big competition, but all I can say is wait till January. You know what? Don't even wait till January. Wait till like mid-December and we'll see something crazy. I'll tell you guys off, off the recording, but
Okay.
well, he'll hit 850 and that'll be good for him and I'm super excited for him.
Well, okay. The world, I love it. I love it. The world record is 8:43.5. Is that right? Off the top of my dome
8:43,
piece.
8:43.45, something like that. Yeah.
Let me swing around the table real quick, and we'll conclude it with there. Um, does he break the world record? And for prosperity's sake, he did 8:25 in the gym, and it was smooth. He definitely has room. I don't think he cuts a lot, and he is extremely motivated. My man is in my DMs often. I know he listens to the podcast and watches all the posts, and he's super in. He loves it. Yeah, I can't wait until he's back, and he can't wait till he's back. We're gonna swing around here. I want to know, does he break the world record, even if with a chip? Because if you're asking me, I think he's not going for 850. It's too risky. I think he's looking to chip and take the world record and then leave all that kind of head to head for worlds that when, try to gain some gap from there. Eric, does he break the world record?
I don't think yet. I don't think he's.
Matt.
I'm a show and prove guy. Now watch, Matt's gonna be like absolutely, but I think it's a little too early. So yeah.
Matt?
He's not breaking it. Nope.
Nope. Austin, you said
I say yeah. I say yeah, he'll break it. I think he'll chip it on the last deadlift. I think he'll break the world record on his second, like break the deadlift world record on his second, and then he'll try to chip the total on his third. That's what I think it's gonna be. That's what I give it to him.
let me ask
And
one more. I lied. Let me ask one more. Is he close enough to attempt it on his third deadlift, Eric?
I mean, you can attempt whatever you want, but I, I
Reasonably. Is
don't
this
think.
not a Hail Mary, but it's reasonable? He's gonna go for it and he'll be like, okay, let's see. Is he that close?
Look, he's got to have a 9 for 9 day to even get close, and I haven't seen anything to make me believe that this is someone I would bet money on. So I don't think he's going to get that close.
Matt, does he get
I,
close
I,
enough that he'll attempt it?
I mean, yeah. I'll be the contrarian and say yes, that he'll be close enough that he'll attempt
You're,
it. But I
you're
mean,
not very convincing with that.
no, I'm not. I mean, his squat is very consistent. He does not miss squats, but he misses a lot of benches. And so you're just putting yourself in a position where you have to pull more at the end. So to Austin's point, maybe he walks away with the deadlift world record. I just don't think he's going to break 843.
Gotcha. And Austin, you already said you think he'll swing for that world record. All right, gentlemen, listen. Phenomenal. Austin, so glad you hopped in this. You're right. You fit in like a glove.
Hey, put
swinging
me in the
here.
Christmas episode too. Christmas episode too.
Oh, no, you're taking all
Hey,
these
look, me,
spots,
me,
man.
you and Gavin. Me, you and Gavin. Me, you and Gavin. Let's get it. Let's get it.
You're like, I want Eric Helms' spot. I'm getting my PhD. You got
Run it. You don't
but
even need to be able
listen,
to do
guys.
math.
That's right. His PhD's up for grabs right now. But thank you, gentlemen. Much appreciated. Amazing discussions, and we'll talk in the DMs. And Austin, you got to let us know what you're going to drop in mid-December. As a little, this will help us for our scouting for the Sheffield preview show. But for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, Pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are.